Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to week 1 of our advanced study of the book of Proverbs. Today, we lay the foundation for our entire course by exploring the world of wisdom literature, its place in the biblical canon, its characteristics, and how it fits into the broader cultural context of the ancient Near East. Let's begin with a simple but crucial question. Where does Proverbs sit within the biblical canon? In the Christian Old Testament, Proverbs belongs to the section we often call the writings or the Ketuvim in Hebrew tradition. Alongside Job, Ecclesiastes, Psalms, and others, it's part of the diverse literary group that includes poetry, philosophical reflections, and historical narratives. While the law and the prophets proclaim divine revelation in direct and often dramatic terms, the wisdom books approach life differently. They observe patterns in the created world and human behavior, seeking practical guidance for living well. Proverbs stands as one of the most prominent examples of this genre, offering concise, memorable sayings on topics ranging from speech and work ethic to justice, family, and spirituality. So, what exactly is wisdom literature? In scholarly terms, it refers to biblical texts that seek to understand life's order and meaning, emphasize practical instruction for moral and successful living, often take a universal perspective rather than focusing solely on Israel's history. Key characteristics include short, pithy sayings or proverbs, use of parallelism in poetry, observations about human nature and the natural world, a strong belief in a moral order rooted in the fear of the Lord. It's important to recognize that wisdom in the biblical sense is not merely intellectual knowledge. It's skillful living with the ability to navigate life's complexities with moral insight. To understand Proverbs properly, we must look beyond Israel to the broader intellectual world of the ancient Near East. Wisdom literature flourished in cultures like Egypt and Mesopotamia. Scribes and teachers in these regions produced instructions and proverbs remarkably similar in tone and content to those in Proverbs. Why is this significant? Because it shows us that the biblical authors were not writing in isolation. Instead, they were engaging with and sometimes responding to the wisdom traditions of surrounding nations. One of the most striking parallels comes from Egypt. You may have heard of the instruction of Amenemope, an Egyptian text likely composed between 1300 to 1000 BC. In it, a father offers moral and practical advice to his son. Advice on controlling anger, avoiding greed, dealing with powerful people, and practicing humility. Consider Proverbs 22:17 to 2400 hours 22, often called the words of the wise. Many scholars have noted remarkable verbal and thematic parallels with Amenemope. For example, both texts advise avoiding greed and dishonest gain, keeping calm in the presence of powerful people, maintaining humility. In Mesopotamia, texts like the Counsels of Wisdom or the Babylonian Instructions of Shuruppak similarly address social behavior, honesty, diligence, and respect for elders. These connections remind us that Israel shared in a broader wisdom conversation. However, biblical wisdom is not a mere copy of foreign teachings. While it shares form and style, its theological center, the fear of the Lord, is distinctly Israelite. So how does wisdom fit into Israel's spiritual and intellectual life? Israel's faith centered on a covenant relationship with the Lord, and it's a relationship marked by obedience to His law and reverence for His character. Wisdom literature stands as a companion to this faith. It explores how to live faithfully in the everyday, how to manage money, how to discipline children, how to speak truthfully, how to handle anger, how to remain humble. In short, wisdom literature demonstrates that spiritual faith and practical living are inseparable. Importantly, wisdom in Proverbs is deeply tied to creation theology. The same God who created the world also established moral and social order. To live wisely is to align oneself with God's design for life. Hence, Proverbs opens with this resounding declaration. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1 verse 7. This verse is not merely an introduction, it's the theological heart of the entire book. As we study Proverbs, we're entering an ancient tradition shared across nations but uniquely shaped by Israel's faith in Yahweh. In the coming weeks, we'll explore Proverbs' structure, theology, poetic artistry, and practical wisdom. But remember, Proverbs is not simply about moral behavior. It's about living wisely in relationship with God. I encourage you this week to read Proverbs 1 verses 1 to 7 and explore some excerpts from Amenemope or other wisdom texts. Compare the tone, themes, and purpose. Ask yourself, how are they similar? How are they different? And how does Proverbs uniquely reflect Israel's faith? Thank you, and I look forward to diving deeper into wisdom literature with you next week.